Yo guys, Trin here again. Um, Today I was going to show you guys how to make a simple timer inside of your project, like your Unreal Engine project. It's something that a lot of people probably think is pretty easy actually, but you could be doing it the wrong way. This is a simple way to make a timer that does not use a tick event. So essentially it allows you to stay off the tick, and it's basically gonna keep you from using those resources and stuff. So anyway, the first things you're gonna want to do is make you can start your blank project. Have your this is just actually just the first person character project, and so you can start that up, and you can literally just go to your first person character blueprint, which will be inside of your first person CPP blueprints right here. And what you're going to have is you're going to probably have some different things in here. This one is a C++ project, and my blueprint is basically a version from that. So it doesn't have all of the it doesn't have all of any of the normal blueprint stuff that would be in here. This one was empty because most of it's in C++. But if you have other stuff, don't worry about it. That's fine. The main thing is that you're going to want to use your event begin play. So you'll have to like stem off of that in a way to where you can still hook up whatever else is hooked up to it, but you're going to want to at least add a couple things to it. And you're going to want to make a blueprint, like a widget. So just a basic widget. The widget is literally just a canvas panel and a text block. And I just put my text block right down here, just so you can see that the timer is actually counting down without having to use the print string. You could use a print string if you want to, but it looks nicer when you actually have a widget here to see it. So essentially all you do, first things is, get your event begin play. If you already have stuff attached to it, try to get it so that you can attach these two, right? Create your widget, and then make sure that you click the widget that you made here. So now you'll have your widget there, and then you're going to want to add that to the viewport, right? Those are the basic functions that you want to start with. Create widget, and then you'll just set that to your timer, whatever it is, timer widget, timer something, and then you'll just say add to viewport, and that'll bring it up on the screen. So now your player can see it when you hit play. And then after that, you're going to want to pull out and have one of these, which is called a set timer by event. Okay, now what this does is it basically allows you to call an event on a timer, right? And what you're going to use this for is you're going to set this time right here, right? This is how long to wait before you execute the delegate in seconds, right? So what you want is you want this event to fire every 1 second, and you want it to loop because you want it to continue to fire on that timer until a specific thing happens, right? So you could say you could have a branch before this that has some logic that says, well, if you're in this level, or if you're, if this specific boolean is true, then you can do the, then go set timer by event. Otherwise, don't do that, right? But if you like want to just test it, you don't have to put a branch in there or anything. This is just to show you how it works. So you set timer by event. You're going to set this to 1 because you want it to be firing every 1 second. So that way it'll be literally acting as a regular timer. And so then you're going to pull off this, and you're going to put out, you're basically going to pull off this and just hit add custom event, right? And right now I've already got one connected, so it won't let me. I'd have to literally like re-drag it or break it and put it back up there. But if yours doesn't connect for some reason, just make sure you pull them out, pull it across, and connect it. And then you can name it whatever you want. I just named mine time counter. And then all you're going to do from there is you're going to create a variable that's going to be a float, right? Just a basic float. And my float I called timer. And this timer is the seconds. This is how long the timer is. Do you 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes? What do you want it to be? Well, just calculate that out in seconds. So if it's this is actually 16 minutes right here. 960 seconds is 16 minutes exactly. So I just did mine for 16 minutes. And what you're going to do is basically take that and you're going to drag it out like I have it here. And you're going to also drag it out with Alt held down, and you're going to set it. So you're going to do the set right there, and you're going to have the get. And you're going to take that get and you're going to go minus float, and you're just going to get the just leave it with what it comes up with, right? 1, because we want to subtract 1 from it every time this fires. And so and eventually, you would want it to like not keep going. You don't want it to keep going below 0, right? So you would want to have a little bit more logic on there that checks to see right before this if it's greater than 0, then subtract timer, obviously. But like I said, this is just to show you how it works. It's not like so that it's not like a completely done logic here. So now you have your timer -1, and you're setting your timer. So that's happening every 1 second, right? And so there's your timer logic right there. Like, it's all done right here and right here. And then you've got your widget. And the reason why we're drawing it to the widget is so that we can actually drawing the widget so we can actually draw the timer to the widget. And so let's go back to our widget now. And you're going to go over to your text block, and you're going to click on the text block text over here, and you're going to create a binding right there. And I already created one. Mine's called get timer. I called it get timer. You can call it whatever you want, but you want to create your binding. It's going to bring you in here to your function, and your function is going to probably be missing these. So all you're going to see is this right here. You're going to just see these two. And so what you're going to do is pull that apart. Oops. Pull this one over here, and then you're gonna go to the regular event graph, and you're gonna get a cast to your character. So you're gonna get player character, and grab that and cast to your character, which mine is called first person character because that's that's the basic name. If you have a different character name, that's the one you want to cast to. And then you're just going to click here, right click on this little node, and just hit promote to variable, right? That's our reference now. We have a reference on the construct event. So as soon as the widget gets drawn, it creates a reference to our character, and so it doesn't have to do that again, and we can access everything inside there. And so we have our reference, and then you're going to want to name that reference probably. So you'd want to come over here and name it something, character reference. As you can see, mine is character reference. So I'm going to delete these, and then I'm going to delete that new one. So mine's character reference, okay? Then go back to your function. Mine's already open right here. And then what you'll do is you'll drag your character reference out into your function here. And then you're going to get timer, right? Get timer, and then, or whatever you named your variable. And then you're going to say from seconds, and you don't want milliseconds, you want seconds, okay? And then you want as time span, right there like that, okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to get the timer, which is 960, right? 960, but you're telling it from seconds. Okay, so you're getting it from seconds, so it's not going to go past seconds. It's not going to give you the milliseconds. It's just going to give you the It's just going to give you the minutes and the seconds, right? And the reason why the reason why we use as time span is because what that's going to do is it's going to show it as minutes and then the colon and then the seconds. And then we just take that and we connect that to our return node and as our text. And what you'll end up with is after you save, compile and save all, and if you hit play, everything should work. When this gets done, you hit play, and then your timer is right there, and it starts counting down. You have a simple timer. Oh, my bad. You can't see it because it's behind my camera thing. Sorry about that. I will move it. Let me move it. Let me move it to a different location. I'll put that like right in the center of the screen so that you can see it. Alright. So there it is. It's counting down in the center of my screen, and it's going to follow my screen wherever I go, right? And so, so there's that, right? And then you say, well, what if I want to modify the timer, like during gameplay? What if I want it to be like Destiny 2's Nightfall, right? Where somehow I pick up an item or I do something and it modifies the timer and adds 30 seconds to the timer. So essentially, in order to do something like that, let's see if we can put it together real quick here. What we're going to do is we're going to make a new object. We're just going to make a new actor. I'm going to go, I think we want it to be, actually we'll make it a new blueprint class because it has to have functionality on it. So we'll make blueprint class, and we're going to make it an actor, and we're just going to go, we'll call this our pickup, or time adding pickup or something. Actually, you know what, we'll just call it the time pickup. So I like to save all my stuff before I continue because it saves that. So inside here, we're going to open that up, and then we'll have that. We'll have this item that's really got nothing on it. So let's add a couple things. Let's add a cube. Oh, not a static mesh. Not a static mesh. Sorry about that. Let's add a cube so that we can see it, right? And then let's scale that cube down so it's not so big. So we want 0.5, and then I'm going to 0.5. And then let's just let's put that in the world and let's see how big it is, because I don't honestly know how big it's going to be. Where is it? Okay, let's take it out there. We got it right out in the world now. Okay, so there's our time pickup, right? And we don't know. It doesn't say time pickup, obviously. It doesn't look anything spectacular, but we'll know it's the time pickup, right? Because we know. We could even change the material if you want to change the material to a different material. That way you can really tell that it's your pickup if you're having, if you got the other white ones and stuff. So but I'm not gonna do that. Well, hover material. I don't know what the fuck that will do on here because it might not work. Yeah, it's just like breaking everything now. Okay, so let's do that. We've got my hover material. So now I know when I hit play, I see my timer and I see this object, right? But nothing happens. Oh, it's just this object is just sitting here. We obviously want to make sure that it's not colliding, so we're not going to block anything. We want to go to no collision, I think. Let me check here. We might want to only have it collide with... Yeah, so now we can walk through it, okay? So no collision, and then we can walk through it. So now what we want to do is go back to that object, and we want to add a box collision. Okay, we want a box collision because we can add functionality to that box collision, and I'm gonna rename my box collision to trigger. So now we have a box collision around that, right? So now look at our box collision. If you haven't done this before, then you can check this out. This is our collision box that's going to allow us to add functionality to it and tell it, hey, when we collide with that trigger box, we want it to do something specific. And so in order to do that, you want to right click on this, you want to go add event, and you're going to want to say on event begin overlaps, right? Add on component begin overlap. This is a component. This trigger box is a component. And so we're going to go on event begin overlap, and we're going to go, this is our pickup, so we want to actually go up here real quick. At event begin play, we're going to want to, actually we could have used the event actor begin overlap as well. Don't, if you want to use that, you can. It actually, I think it would work the same way. Event when this actor overlaps another actor, for example, a player walking to a trigger. So this could have worked. I like to use the trigger box because it allows me to make it bigger, so that you don't have to literally step right on the actor. You could pick it up from a couple, a little bit further away. So we're gonna go with. I'm just gonna use this trigger box. But right here, we're gonna also want to go on here and get our player controller or player character. So we'll get our player character, and we're going to go here and we're going to cast to not to the cast to I don't want that cast to my first person character, right? And then we're going to go here and we're going to get a reference again, right? Promote that to a variable. So now we have a reference again to our character because we're going to want that anyways for our game. If we're making a game like that, probably most likely we'll want a reference. We don't have to do it this way. There's other ways of making things without using casts. You could do delegates. You could do binds, like with what are they? Event dispatchers. So we could literally do an event dispatcher when the character is loaded into the level. You could fire an event dispatcher, and then this could be looking for it. So you could bind an event. An event to, which I don't have one, but you could bind one to an event dispatcher that you call as soon as your first person character is made. So you would go like this. You'd say FPS character loaded, right? That would be your event dispatcher name, because you'd want to tell it like, hey, that's what it's doing. So you would call that on event begin play after everything else, and you say, yeah, my character was loaded. So obviously, if it's casted, it's loaded. The one thing about doing it like this is you can pass information through the event dispatcher. So if you wanted to pass something like a self-reference to it, you could go character reference. Oops, motherfucker. Okay. Reference, right? And you can take this as a first person character reference, and then all you have to do is take a self, get the reference to self, and you take this and you plug that in. Okay? And now you have a self reference that goes right to wherever you load that, wherever you bind that. So now on the time pickup, we could come here and go get player character. Obviously we have the player character. Actually, this might not work because we're still going to need to cast anyways. I'm trying to think here. Will it work? No, it might not. Might not. We still might need to cast anyways. Let me see. Bind event. And then you have to find the one that's the one that you actually want. So bind event. Character loaded, right? FPS character loaded. Bind event. And in order to bind the event, you still need, I think, you're still going to need the target, which would actually be that, because you can't just do this. It has to be that. So you would have to cast. There are other ways, though, too, that you don't have to do that without a. You don't have to cast. This does require a cast. Now that I think about it. But what happens is, you know what? I'm just gonna hit Control Z, because what happens is when you bind and you actually cast that, or you do this here. Oh, and it's got an input. We want an input. Where did it go? Oh, yeah. So then you go here and you go add custom event, right? And now you've got that character reference right there. If you ever wanted to pass a variable through, you've got your character reference that comes right out of your event that you put in there. So if you do cast to something and get your target for the event dispatcher, then at least you can use that information to pass other variables and information through. It's kind of nice to be able to do that. But because that requires that, won't do it. It requires this cast anyways. I was trying to think of another way. There's actually other ways. If you have like a component on your character that you know is only on the character, you could look for that at the event begin play. You could get component by class or something like that, and then if it finds that component, then excuse me, then during the tick you could do stuff and tell it to do things, right, and search for specific things or whatever. But I really don't want to deal with that. If you're going to have a game, you're most likely going to want to use casts because the truth is, if you're making a game, you're not going to change the character. The character is going to be the same character throughout the whole game, right? And you're not going to give players the ability to change that. So it doesn't matter if you cast. So we're gonna say character, set our reference, and we can always name this one to character reference also. Character reference, right? And then now that we have the character reference in the time pickup, we can get the timer from the character. So now we can say on trigger overlap, we can get the character, okay? And you could say other actor. You could probably say we might even be able to do this if we use this and you say other actor, then you can do your cast and stuff. You don't have to cast at the very beginning if you don't want to. Other actor, I think you could use as a trigger to cast to first-person character. But the problem is that if you do that and it's not a first-person character, then you would fail that cast, because if you're not overlapping, if the trigger gets overlapped with something else, like another actor in the level, it's not going to be the player, and then this cast will fail, which is fine. It'll only work when you actually have a character, so we can do it that way too. Either way, whatever way you want to do it. If you want to do it this way and set it up at first, that's fine, because then it only happens once, and you've already got that. And as soon as the actor's in the level, it's done. You have a reference. It'll never need to make it again. In this sense here, anytime something hits the object or goes inside that trigger box, it's going to make a cast. So that's just an extra, basically an extra step that it's going to be doing anytime something touches it, which you don't really want that extra step. It's like, why do I need to make sure that it's, I shouldn't have to cast to the character every time something touches it. I mean, what if you have a bunch of other things that are going to be touching it all the time? You don't want it to be casting to check to see if it's the character every time. That's stupid, right? So, you could just do a simple branch, or you could just do, no, actually, no. Let's see. I guess we could do that, just to make sure that it is the character when it does it. Because otherwise, it'll do it no matter anything touches it. If the other actor is, is equal to, you can also do this. If it's equal to, if it's equal, but let's see. Sorry, I'm kind of doing this as we go, so I just was an equal object. You can say that. You can say if that's equal to first-person character too, or it might not even be that. FPS. It would have to be the mesh that we're actually touching the object trigger box with. So don't do that way. So if something were to overlap, okay, screw it. Let's do it this way, just so that it knows. Let's undo this, undo that. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Take off that. And this is the only good thing about doing it this way, which it sucks because it's an extra step. But I was gonna say that the only good thing is that then if something touches it and it's not the character, then it won't do it, because the only time it can is when it is the character. So from the cast, then you would basically just pull from here and get your timer. So get timer, and then you can set the timer to whatever you want it to be. But you'd also obviously want to set timer. So set timer to timer, because you want to set it to what it is plus what the amount you want it to actually have. So if you want it to be that plus 30 seconds, then you could do that, right? And then now you've got whatever it was already plus what you want to add, and then set it again. So this way, it's going to cast. If it's the first-person character, it's going to cast to that. The other actor might be able to work as that, which I think it does, so because it does the other actor. And if the other actor is not the first-person character, this cast is going to fail, and it won't do that. You see what I'm saying? So that is an efficient way. It's just that it does have to cast this every time something touches it, and if it's not, if it's getting hit by like a lot of different things, and you're only going to hit it with a player every once in a while, you might want to try to do this a different way. So let's see if that works now. Essentially, we should be able to hit play. We see our 16 minutes, and then when we walk over to this thing, it should add 30 seconds. See? So it's adding 30 seconds, and then it adds 30 seconds again, and it adds 30 seconds again, and it adds 30 seconds again. It's going to keep adding it because we're not deleting the object. So what we would do is, after all this happens, if it's the player, right, and everything works and we set the timer, then the last thing we're going to want to do is delete or destroy object, destroy actor, right, and then we're destroying ourself, which is the time pickup. So the time pickup is going to destroy itself. We don't have to worry about having a target for that because it's a self. It's the self. And so we can go here. Now we have 15 whatever. We're going to add 30 seconds. The timer, the thing's getting destroyed, and it's good to go. One thing that's a little weird that I don't like is that it is lagging every once in a while. It didn't do it that time. Didn't do it that time. But okay, so now let's just say you know, now we're in like, oh, we're in the Destiny game. Oh, here you go. You know, you're doing stuff. You have your timer, and then there's one of the objects that you want to pick up that you know is going to increase your time. Then you can go and actually go pick it up, and you gain 30 seconds to your timer. It can be as easy as doing like a projectile to where you shoot the thing, and instead of it being on this time pickup, instead of just casting to the first-person character, you would cast to the projectile, right? And if the projectile touches the trigger box, then it would do this exact same functionality. It would take the timer, it would add 30 seconds, and then it would destroy itself. Or it would take damage. If you wanted it to take damage, you could do all that right before this. You could say take damage, do all this crap. And then, you know, once your damage thing has passed, then it could go through a branch, and it could say that, you know, cast all that crap, do the timer, add 30 seconds, do that, and then destroy itself. You know, there's different ways of doing things, but it's pretty simple stuff, right? It's not totally complex. As you can see, it's really, really easy. I did that, you know, really quickly, and didn't really have to make hardly any functionality here to get that done. And again, it's not using the tick, so the timer's not hardly using any resources. It's like an invoke. It's like invoking a function. So it's quite nice. And I can just sit there and have my timer. And then I can have it to where, this is the other cool thing. So this is what I was going to show you. One more thing. So on the first-person character, when you set this event right here, you can have it check, and you can say counter timer, right? Counter -1 timer, and you can say, well, branch, right? And you could say if timer ever is less than 0, right? Less than or equal to 0. Let's just do less than or equal to 0, right? If it ever is equal to less than or equal to 0, then we can go true, and we can say quit game, okay, or whatever your functionality is that you want. And then on the false, you could do nothing, right? Because if it's ever less than or equal to 0, On false, you don't have to do anything. You just want to. It just wants to know that if you're ever less than or equal to 0, do something specific. And so what we'll do is we'll change the timer because we can, right? We can make this less. We could say we want this to be 5 seconds. And so what's going to happen is, actually, let's make it 10 seconds. So I have a couple minutes, a couple seconds to get to okay, actually, 7. We don't need 10 seconds to show you. So what's going to happen is, obviously, we're going to see this, and it's going to go, okay, well, we've got that, and then it's going to quit the game as soon as it gets to 0. Boom. And so, you know, or you could have it to where it goes and get all actors of class, and you could say time pickup, okay, and you can say for each, and you can take this, and then you can say destroy actor. And so now, for every time pickup actor in the world, if you don't get them in time, they're going to destroy themselves. So what we'll do is go back to our timer. Let's give ourselves 20 seconds, and we will go to the world, and we'll make more of these. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to put like a bunch of them, but I'm not going to actually grab them. I'm just going to let you see that they will be all destroyed. And here, we'll put them all over the place. And we'll go here, and then we'll go like over there. We'll hide one. Doesn't really matter where we put them, honestly, but I'm just showing you. So now we've got a bunch of those, right? But they're all going to be gone. As soon as 20 seconds runs out, they're all going to be gone. It's not going to quit the game this time because I took that and I turned it off. I deleted that part. But it is going to take all the actors of time pickup. It's going to delete them all. And then it can continue to do more functionality if we wanted it to later. Or we could say, you know, print string you failed or something, right? Print string and just say you failed, right? And so we'll let that stay on the screen for 5 seconds, and then we'll be done. Okay, so let's go here. Now we have 20 seconds to watch all these pickups. They're going to all disappear. Watch. All of them are going to disappear. All at the same time. As soon as the timer runs out. And then it's going to print to the screen in the side. There they go. They're all gone. And it says you failed. And it's going to continue to say you failed as the timer goes. Now that's where you would say, okay, well, timer hits 0, right? Obviously, if the timer hits 0, then it needs to stop the functionality. So you would put that in here. You'd say branch. And then you'd say if timer is ever... actually, yeah, so if timer is less than or equal to 0... so let's go, timer is less than or equal to 0. Just do this again. So what you want to do is actually less than or equal to 0. Or sorry, no, timer is greater than or equal to 0. So if timer is greater than or equal to 0, greater than or equal to 0, then that's when you want it to continue to do stuff. If it's not greater than or equal to 0, then you would not continue. So if it's greater than or equal to 0, continue to do this. Otherwise, don't do anything. False, just stop. Just never do another thing. You're done. It doesn't do anything else. And you could actually, you could even probably tell it to stop doing this. But what you would want to do is you don't really want to put a timer like this on the character. So if you guys end up using this for anything, it would be best if you made a component on the character that would have this functionality on it, right? You would make a component, new, let's see, you could probably put, it might have to be a blueprint. a blueprint component or something. Because what you want to do is you want to put that functionality in the component so that you could delete the component when the timer runs out. That way it doesn't have to keep doing this, on the player. It wouldn't just keep trying to keep running this loop. Or you could just set this to false. You could say we can make this a boolean, and we can change that boolean when that happens. So let's just go. Actually, yeah. If we just make that a boolean, it'll work. We go boolean, and we just say can timer tick, and we would set can timer tick, and if it's equal to true at first, we'll be fine because we want it to be equal to true at first, obviously. So we can start with it ticked, and then we don't actually have to do this. We could just get rid of that, and we can go here, connect these, and then if it's going to continue to do this, and then as soon as it's if it's less than or equal to 0, then it's going to do all this stuff here, and then it's going to actually take this and set it to false, and then never will it again tick. After that, it'll never tick until you tell it to, and that's it. And if you wanted to reset your timer even at that point, you could even reset your timer. You can be like, okay, well, I want to reset my timer back to 960 again, or whatever number it is that you want. I'm not going to do that, but yeah, you could. So now, essentially, it should do the deletion of the objects, and the timer should stop. It should just stop at 000, and that's when you could like tell the widget to stop showing it or delete itself. Nope, it's not doing it. It's still ticking. Interesting. Okay. All right. So can timer tick is false. Interesting. I wonder why that didn't work. Current value. Yep. And then we set that to false, and it should switch. Ticks through. We may not be able to do that then. Let me try it one more way here before I do this. Let's do it this way. Let's just go right here. Set it to fucking true, or set it to false, and then and I'm going to set my timer for a smaller amount so I can just test this faster. Let's just do 5 seconds. And then let's find out. No, it's going to keep going. So that boolean doesn't work. So don't use that. We know that doesn't work, obviously. Don't know why they even allow you to have that option if it's not going to continue to work. Maybe because, probably because this doesn't, you're setting this at the beginning. That's what it is. It's because this isn't being set with a tick. It's being set with the event begin play. So there's no event that's actually coming back and running and saying, hey, you've switched. So you could just leave that, and like I said, put this all on an object that gets deleted as soon as it gets below, as soon as it gets below 0 or whatever. You would just leave this to true. You would leave this running here, and then at the end here, you would actually, what the hell? You would actually you would go through all the motions here, destroy all the actors, and then you would actually just delete the component. So you would take the component from here, and I'm actually going to try this. Let's go blueprint script component, and we want it to do an actor component, right? Because we want that. So let's do an actor component, and let's just call this the timer. And then we would create blueprint class, and then on that particular one, let's hit save. We can actually go in here. Now the timer is actually here, so timer 1 component, and the timer component is, I don't know why they fucking called it timer 1. kind of weird. Should be able to, maybe because that's timer. But now you can actually put that functionality on the timer event component, and then you can take this component in on the first person character, go to the event graph, and then take your timer component right here, pull it out, and then you can say delete or component, let's see, destroy component, right? So what you would actually do is at the end of, actually no, destroy self. That's what you would do. So you would take all this, let's get all this here, and you would copy it. Well, let's add that too. So like all that, and then you would copy, and then you would go to your timer, and you paste it on here, and you just go here like this, and you hook this up, and you could we can get rid of the tick because we don't even need the tick event, right? So let's grab all this, pull this out, and then you could say delete or destroy yourself right here. Destroy component, and self is the component that you're destroying. And let's find out what this is saying. Oh yeah, because we would need to put the timer variables in here and stuff. So we would want timer float change, and then hit compile and hit save as. And then because we're changing the location of that, let's just disconnect this. And what we're actually going to do is it doesn't really matter. I disconnected all that stuff. This stuff can be deleted right here. We're going to go back into our timer widget, and we have to go and change that variable that we in our bind. So in our text or get timer function, we want to get the timer from the character, but we also want to get it from the component. So you'll have to say timer 1. So you get timer 1, and then you get the timer from that, the timer variable from that. So you say timer get timer, and then you take that one because that's the one that we are now using. Okay, so now we have that one there, and we're gonna save all that, and we have to set that timer to correct, and then it says return node, and then you have to also make a thing that says if that's valid, then do this. So it has to say is valid, and you have to check to see if timer is valid, because if it's not valid, you don't want to keep trying to get the value from it, right? So so let's go back to the last thing, and that is to go to the timer. This is stupid right here, don't worry about that. And what we want to do is set our timer value to 5 seconds. It has to happen some kind of time, because if you don't put some time in there, it's just gonna delete everything and delete itself right off the bat, right? So there it goes. Now the timer can delete all the objects, it can finish itself, and then it can delete the component from the class, from the first person character, or from whatever object you put it on. I mean, you could make it you can make a completely different class that just runs that out in the world, or you could make it somewhere else. And so so there's basically a bunch of different options for setting up and using a timer. A real simple timer that, like I said, doesn't use any tick event and is very easy to use. Really easy to use. So let's try it. Let's see that one more time here. It says you failed, and then it just deletes everything and deletes itself. So there you go. I hope that anybody that's wondering about how to make a simple timer and has had trouble, like struggling trying to figure out, ooh, that's loud, damn, struggling to figure out how to use one properly, or not using the tick event for one. I hope you guys like this, and if you did get any, if you found this to be helpful, please feel free to like and subscribe. Again, I'm going to be making more videos. I try to do videos whenever I have a chance. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's only on certain weekends when I can actually get something done. So, anyway, I will catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.